All right, let's move on to the next topic that we have here. We're gonna talk about the Chargers, who literally just lost Keenan Allen. So the question is as follows: should the Chargers panic with new free agency departures? And big NFL Mike, I know you're a Chargers fan, die hard. I'm gonna keep this with you.
It's tough, man, because I'm not saying panic. We're not panicking on the direction of the team because this is the same direction that they were going in anyways, that the receivers were not going to be able to stay together. They drafted a receiver in the first round last year. Josh Palmer was invested in the third round the year before. Like, they already were going down this path to where when Mike Williams' contract ran out, I think their plan was with Tom Telesco to move on from Mike Williams and continue forward with Keenan Allen. But of course, you get a new regime in here, and the mindset changes a little bit. And they want to send a message to the team right away. Like, hey, if you're not going to be team first, we got to send you out. But I think that the panic comes from Chargers fans in the fact that we always envisioned Keenan Allen retiring a Charger. We always envisioned Keenan Allen, if we ever do win a Super Bowl, being on that team and being a key member of that roster. And the panic comes from also just the fact that it hurts, and I got emotional about it when he got traded, that we wasted another Hall of Famer's career. And I keep saying, like, that's the last one with each one. You know, with Antonio Gates, that was the last one. With Daniel Thompson, that was the last one. With Phillip Rivers, that was the last one. And now with Keenan Allen, that was the last one. But the panic should not be set in on the roster itself. The Chargers have invested in receiver. Harbaugh knows they invested in receiver. He knows what they have on this team. I know Quentin Johnston had a terrible rookie year. Everyone knows that the rookie year was awful, and I'm not saying that I am fully believing that he's the franchise wide receiver one of the team at this very moment, but can he do better than that? 150,000%. You don't need to do anything but just catch the ball when it's thrown to you to do better than that. I don't think people realize, yes, he had 11 drops last season, and that is an ugly-ass stat when he only had 50 targets. I mean, that is as ugly as it gets. But 3 of those drops were 70-yard touchdowns. Like, if you just give him half of those drops back, his rookie year is starting to look a little bit better. The dude was getting open. The dude was getting in position for Justin Herbert once we lost Mike Williams and filling that role for him already. He just got lobster hands. So if he can fix that problem, we don't really have as big a need at receiver as people are saying with this loss, because Josh Palmer is such a consistent guy already. Josh Palmer's an 800-yard receiver in this league already. He would have had 1,000 yards if he didn't have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams on his team this entire time already in his career. I think he is going to be the Chargers wide receiver one unless they draft someone at 5th overall. And I think that's also why you don't panic about losing these receivers, is because they have the 5th overall pick. If receiver is a pressing need in this offense for Harbaugh, which I don't think it is, he has the pick to replace both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams' production, maybe combined, with one pick that's going to be on a rookie deal for the next 5 years.
Zay, I'll let you respond, and then I'll go after you.
Yeah, I don't think the Chargers should panic. I think their star players, were injury riddled. They were getting older. And I don't think they fit the regime of what Justin Herbert needs on their team. And that was unreliable talent. You know, you looked at everybody that they had in terms of receiver, tight end, running back, guys were hurt. They weren't available for Justin Herbert. And I think this draft is the perfect time to kind of recoup a lot of talent. This is a stacked draft for positional players. And I think this is what the Chargers are looking forward to. I think this is what they need. And I know Mike Williams, they're still interested in bringing him back, but I'm not too sure if they want to. Like you said, they invested a first-round pick in Johnston. I don't know how to pronounce last name, but Quinn. They got Josh Palmer, as alluded, and then they still could get a great playmaker at receiver in this draft in the first round or even second round or third. This is a stacked receiving class, and I think that's something that could really help utilize the Chargers getting younger and using elite route runners to help Justin Herbert get the more touchdowns, get more yards down the field. And I think Harbaugh, as everyone has said throughout his career, is a quarterback whisperer. I think he's going to make everyone on the team better. I think everyone on the team is going to eat more, get more yardage, have more career highs. And I think this is only going to help Chargers fans be more happy because it's going to be like their logo, electrifying. It's going to be lightning on that football field. So I think that's something that Chargers fans should look forward to because the team is getting younger. And that's something they should hope for. Bringing back Joey Bosa and I think Khalil Mack. I don't know if they're still planning to trade him. I think they brought him back for good. that's great. But I think that even the Chargers fans are probably like on edge. Like, all right, if these guys hurt again, like we gotta let them go, because I know these are big names, but maybe that's what's holding them back. So many big names on his team, these guys just fail to meet expectations year after year after year. So I think this team getting younger, and with this new Harbaugh regime, I think it's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, I would like to respond to that, man. And it's funny because obviously we're going to talk about wide receiver here, but I think looking at this question and just looking at this team in general, I kind of want to go the opposite route and then try to come back and address the receiver. Because I think when you do lose a guy like Keenan Allen and you do lose Mike Williams, a big chunk of your offensive production, it does create a void that's going to be needed to be fulfilled, whether it's free agency or obviously not, probably not, but draft. They got the number 5 overall pick, and that's not normally the place where you go after a wide receiver. So we probably address that a little bit further about positional value and need and necessity, right? Because there's something that you have to walk the thin lines of. But I think when you talk about Justin Herbert and what he has been missing throughout his career, that's a quality defense. Like, he needs a better defense. And no matter how many receivers you add or who you think you're going to add, if you get Marvin Harrison to 4 past Arizona and you land him, you're going to need a defense. And I think when you talk about them restructuring the deals of Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, I think, to get them to play well and be healthy, along with adding to that, side of the ball, I think it's going to be critical. Because when you look at Justin Herbert, I saw some stat online. I forgot the website, but it was like in his first 32 games, 27, I believe. They gave up 27 or more points in 19 of them. When you look at a guy like Lamar Jackson, he has always benefited from a above average or at worst average defense. Last year, above average. Couple times above average. Okay, so that's very important. Everybody look at the weapons. It's not only about the weapons. Lamar Jackson didn't have weapons like that prior to last year, and they made the playoffs. Why? Because their defense could stop somebody. Sometimes less is more. But can you stop somebody? And I think when you look at the numbers, I mean, there's this narrative. And NFL Mike, I saw your video that you did a couple months ago about that Justin Herbert is not clutch narrative. You did an amazing job on that. There's a narrative that Justin Herbert is not clutch, right? But when you look at games like the Lions, where he threw for over 300 yards, it was like 300 and forgot the exact number, but he threw for over 323 yards, tied the game with a touchdown, only to watch on the bench as his defense allows Jared Goff and comp to move down the field and win the game with a field goal. Okay, when you talk about the Vikings game, where even though they won that game, they almost blew that game. He almost sat there and watched his defense blow that game. Kirk Cousins threw a boneheaded interception, and he threw for 405 yards in that game. It's games like that. He needs a defense to stop somebody. When they was in the wild card and they blew that 27-0 lead against the Jaguars, yeah, they could have done more offensively. They could have ran the football to keep the clock moving. The clock is their friend, but they could have stopped somebody as well. Okay, so yes, we could talk about wide receiver. I'm gonna address that in my next lap, but they need to get Justin Herbert a defense, and Jim Harbaugh, we'll see if he can get the best out of that unit.
Yeah, and I think if you look at what the Chargers have been doing as far as moves this offseason, the message is clear to the league what they're going to do. And the message is clear to fans what the direction is we're going in. And it's the direction that I expected the second they hired the guy at coach. They let Austin Ekeler go, the small receiving back, for Gus Edwards, a freaking bus.
Yep.
They then let their flashy, pass coverage linebackers, Eric Kendricks and Kenneth. Well, Kenneth Murray's not really a pass coverage guy, but Kenneth Murray is like a waste of the middle of the field space guy. They let Kenneth Murray go, who's kind of like this big jacked video game looking character, but not a smash mouth football player. And they brought in Denzel Perryman, who is known for getting suspended for hitting people too hard and hitting them in the head and all kinds of stuff. And a guy that was drafted by the Chargers back when he first entered the league. They let go of the receiving, the flashy Gerald Everett. He's basically a slot receiver
and they
to go to Chicago to continue. And they get Will Dissly, smash mouth, no nonsense, run blocking tight end. Leal, Zay, if I tell you that this team trades out of the 5th pick and we get 2 extra first round picks, one next year, we get a pick swap this year, and we get an extra second round pick next year, which pretty much locks it in. The Chargers draft corner, or maybe Brock Bowers. I'm holding out that he maybe slides into the part of the middle draft where we could trade back and still get him, or they address the offensive line because we have one hole at right tackle. And then in round 2, they draft Blake Corum and Rome Wilson as their 2 second-round picks. How do you think this offense will do next year?
I think this offense will still be fine.
You think they'll need Keenan Allen and Mike Williams so desperately that they need to pay him $40 million to stay and get injured again? No, they won't need them at that point.
No, they won't. And I think there's a couple things I want to address too, right? We got some more minutes on this topic because speaking at receiver, I didn't really get to talk about receiver because I was focused on the other side of the ball. But I think if you're going to, get Justin Herbert to at least have a formidable wide receiver unit, no matter how you slice it, whether you do take a receiver at that pick, which I doubt they're going to do because unless Marvin Harrison drops, I mean, I like the kid Malik Neighbors from LSU as well.
Have you seen the news today?
No, what happened?
Reports, there's it's rumors. We don't know for sure if it's real or not. Reports are saying that around half the league views Neighbors as the wide receiver one.
Yeah, I did see that. I did see that. I'm not sure if the Cardinals is in that category, but I definitely did see that. The Cardinals is in prime position to take who they want at a receiver. But I think for me, whether they do take a receiver at that pick or whether they don't, I think, oh my God, my point. Oh, they're going to need a big leap from Quentin Johnson. Regardless of what they add or don't add, they're going to need a leap from Quentin Johnson. We know he has a size. We know back in TCU, he was he was known for big explosive plays. I saw him a couple times last year get open, whatever maybe Justin Herbert didn't throw it to him, or when he did, it was dropped. They're gonna need a big leap from him in order for that wide receiver unit to be formidable for Justin Herbert. But I also do think Joshua Palmer, you talked about him, very consistent. He's known to be that number 3, and when Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, something happens to them, he's the instant number 2 or sometimes even number 1. And I think him having that responsibility now of potentially being a number 1, we'll see if actual upping up the depth chart actually coincides with more production. We'll see, right? Sometimes it's not like that, even though you would think it would be. I got one question because I'm trying to really juggle a lot of things here with the Chargers. We're talking about the state of the Chargers right now, and it's a very complex organization. I want to talk about the fit with Greg Roman and Justin Herbert, right? Because I think, to me, that's one of the most polarizing, I can see it going either way type duos in NFL right now, period. And I'm gonna explain why. So we all know that Justin Herbert, and God bless his soul, bros, whatever has happened to his development is not fair at all. With the combination of the bad defense, the in and out of the lineup wide receivers, and the different coordinators that he has had, like 4 and like 5 years or something like that. You talk about Joe Lombardi, always said he was late to the party. Okay, this rinky dink conservative offense. Then you go to the polar opposite, kind of. Kellen Moore is more aggressive. He wants to take the shots down the field. And now you bring in a guy like Greg Roman, who's known to want to run the football. And his offense really doesn't have the biggest shelf life. If you look at his track record, it'd be hot for a moment, and you could potentially go on a run, and then it gets stagnant. And there's no really creativity outside of it. It's known for the quarterback runs and all that. We know Justin Herbert in college was very, he was a dual threat guy. I remember that bowl that he had. I think it was the Rose Bowl, or it might have been the Pac-12. I think it was a Pac-12 championship where he had that monster day on the ground. Can he tap into that mobility? I don't know. Mike, I'm gonna leave it up to you, bro. What's your thoughts on Greg Roman and the partnership with Justin Herbert, and how do you think it's going to pan out?
Yeah, it is an interesting hire because, like you're saying, we're typically used to seeing Greg Roman with Colin Kaepernick, right? He was offense coordinator for Kaepernick's breakout, Lamar Jackson, and we've seen him with other mobile quarterbacks in his career. It's kind of become a theme with his offenses. He seems to be the guy that teams target when they're looking for someone to mold these mobile quarterbacks. And Herbert is mobile, but he's not Lamar Jackson or Colin Kaepernick. Like, he's not trying to take off. Not even close to Josh Allen either, in my opinion. I don't even think he's close mobility. I don't think he's hurdling anyone in his entire career. There's no way. But Justin Herbert can run. He is a little bit mobile. I just think that everyone's overreacting a little bit to think that Greg Roman and Harbaugh are going to come in here and ask them to run the offense like Lamar Jackson's in the pocket. That's not what the case is going to be. Greg Roman's coming in to help improve and basically give us a rushing attack in the first place. Chargers 32nd last year, 31st in rushing in 2022, the year before that. And this is what's been irking me the most about all of the Chargers rhetoric and talk and narratives and everything. When you lose a bunch of players, I know everyone's going to start to freak out, especially other fan bases, especially the Raiders fan base that is just reaching out to me in masses right now to talk crap. But even like former quarterbacks that I know who know what play action and good defense do for the quarterback position are acting as if that Herbert's fantasy value, for example, is going to just tank to the freaking ground. No, this guy is one of the most efficient quarterbacks in NFL history at this point in his career. Harbaugh came to the team for Herbert. He had plenty of opportunities to come to the league and have a dominant rushing attack. Plenty. And there were other opportunities this year he could have went to and had a better rushing attack. Bijan Robinson, maybe. But he decided to come to LA for Justin Herbert. If y'all think that Herbert's pass attempts are dipping below 30 a game, I will bet anything it doesn't, that he will still be throwing the ball 30 times a game. And even if he dips below that, Herbert has had one healthy game that he finished where he had 25 pass attempts or less. In that game, he had 400 yards, 3 touchdowns with Jalen Guyton as his wide receiver 1, Tyron Johnson as his wide receiver 2 against, the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the time and Tom Brady. That's his only game in sub 25 pass attempts. And he balled out. And the reason that he balled out is because we ran the ball well, ironically, with Kellen Balaj, someone that most people have never heard of in that game because Austin Ekeler couldn't do it. The whole thing with Joe Lombardi, Leo, the reason that hire did not work out, Joe Lombardi's passing game is phenomenal. I mean, it's the one we saw Drew Brees run for basically his entire career with the Saints. The passing game is amazing. Herbert had 5,000 yards in that passing game, but that passing game and that scheme is reliant on a guy like Alvin Kamara that can shred people as a rusher just as much through the air. Yes, Austin Ekeler destroys people as a receiver, but not
in between the tackles.
Alvin Kamara's level in between the tackles. We didn't have the Mark Ingram to supplement our rushing attack. If the Chargers got built the rushing attack, like if Joe Lombardi would have committed to it and said, hey, we're going to keep adding running backs until we find what's going to work, I think it could have worked out still. I really do, because the Chargers did not have a rushing attack, and they have not for Herbert's entire career.
And it's unfortunate because week 1 last year, the rushing attack looked promising. I believe they had over 200 yards in between Ekeler and Joshua Kelly, and then injuries happened, and then Austin Ekeler never recovered from that injury. He was slow as a beetle. You mentioned that Buccaneers game. That's when I became a Herbert fan, because I was a Tom Brady fan, still am, even though he retired, greatest of all time. But when I saw Justin Herbert go toe for toe with Tom Brady, I was bowing down after the game. I'm like, yeah, I like this guy. I'm gonna rock with this guy, and I've been rocking with him ever since. Do you
remember how they lost that game, Leo? You remember how they lost that game?
Yeah, I remember.
It was at halftime. The Chargers were on the 5-yard line, and they could have just kneeled and went to half. But Anthony Lynn's geniusness said, let's give Josh Kelly 1 carry before half for no reason. And he fumbled on the 5-yard line, and Brady got a free touchdown, and we lost by 1 point.
A lot of people
Classic Chargers.
A lot of people think when I talk about Justin Herbert and I defend him that I'm making excuses. But when you look at sequences, just like what you just brought up, and you look at the defense in the Jaguars wild card game, like it's really like not really excuses. Like, sure, could he be a little better focal? Sure. Could he make on a 3rd down, make a play like Mahomes? Sure. But like really, it's really not really all his fault. And I think, Jim Harbaugh, I call him Harbaugh because he's Timothy, he'll bring that team some discipline. And if they could just, continue to bolster the defense, and I'm not really too concerned at wide receiver, bro. When you saw the Chiefs, right, for a prime example, they lost Tyreek Hill, won a Super Bowl, 2 back-to-back, okay? Sometimes less is more, okay? Like, we're not going to lose sleep over Keenan Allen, who's over 30-something years old, Mike Williams, who's primarily a jump ball specialist. They used to experiment with him. That's the one thing that I thought Joe Lombardi did well, was experiment with Mike Williams a little bit more in the slot, try to get him more targets. Then that fell through, but I think the Chargers will be fine. I'm not worried. You got Justin Herbert. When you have elite quarterback play, you can overcome some things.
Well, this is probably arguably the best quarterback in Harbaugh's like coaching career as well. Talking about in terms of talent, Greg Roman as well. Like you said, brings a different dynamic to the team, which establishes hopefully better opportunities on the play action with Justin Herbert, more probably downfield plays, especially if they're giving Gus Edwards a bulk of the carries, if all the carries, right? He's a guy like you have to pay a lot of attention to him. He's not a guy you could just rely on one tackler or whatever. He's a guy who gets it. He could definitely hard runner, gets to his yards, and he definitely pushes single tacklers down the field more often than not. He was phenomenal as a Baltimore Raven, and now he's a Charger. So let's see what happens.
Do we think Herbert will either contend or win an MVP with this coaching staff in his career? That's why I keep asking people. I keep getting all these comments about the Herbert downfall because of these receivers, and then I ask them that question, and they always say probably. I'm like, okay, so you agree with me, and you're just trolling me.
I think for this, right? I think he's more likely to win an MVP without the big name receivers than not. Because before it was like, you got Williams, you got Keenan, but now it's like, all right, all those guys are gone, and Justin Herbert's still producing high numbers. They're winning more games more than likely because Harbaugh's a guy. He's a no nonsense guy. Like, yeah, he's a player's coach, but he's a guy. He wants to win more than anything.
He's a winner.
His career track record says just that. He wants to win. So it's going to be interesting what happens here.
And someone who's really sneaky that no one's even talking about. I know you guys probably know him from his punt returning skills, but Darius Davis was a starting receiver in college, and he just didn't have room on the depth chart this year to fit in. And he's also 5'7", but he's electric, man. And if Harbaugh could use that guy in the short yardage game, get him on some screens too, they have plenty of receivers right now with draft picks and cap space to get more.
I think when Mahomes won that MVP, remember, he won an MVP without Tyreek Hill. And I think for me, not that I never believed in Mahomes, Mahomes is Mahomes from day one, but it was like a new profounded respect, me individually, in the sense that a lot of people was like, oh, you lost Tyreek Hill, your numbers are going to go down. That's the end of winning Super Bowls. That's the end of winning the MVP. And he goes out winning MVP. So if we feel that Justin Herbert is, I'm not saying he's better than Mahomes, but is around that stratosphere, top 5 quarterback in the NFL, which I still think he is, then he should be able to win an MVP, and they should still be able to have success despite the free agency departures.
Yeah, I'm seeing Brock Purdy over Herbert on way too many lists, man. It's making me want to run into a wall.
If he was on the 49ers, they would have won 2 Super Bowls already.
I think they would have won every Super Bowl that he's played. I think they would have won 4 straight if they had Herbert.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.